Hi, this is Sanjay Gangal from GIS Café. I'm here with Baptiste Jouffroy, VP of Global Sales at APLINES. Hello, Baptiste.
Hey, Sanjay. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Baptiste, tell us about APLINES.
Yeah, we're a technology startup company. We're backed by the Schneider Electric group, and our solution has been built with and for utilities to help them manage their assets. So typically, we model any risk combined with criticality of the asset to support decision support on the assets.
Okay, and what type of assets are we talking about?
Yeah, at the moment, we're talking primarily about grid assets. Yeah, so any asset you can find like pylons, poles, conductors, substations, transformers. This is what we focus on.
Okay, and would you consider anything that interferes with their work also as an asset like vegetation?
Yeah, absolutely, because vegetation is something that is typically outside the scope of asset management, while it's actually the main risk of failure on the asset. So we absolutely take into account vegetation as a risk on the asset. Yeah.
Okay, and your main product is called APLINES?
APLINES, that's the name of the core platform.
Okay, so tell us more about APLINES.
Yeah, APLINES is a software, as a service. It generates decision analytics on asset management based on the monetized value of the risk, right? That means for every dollar that a company spends on maintenance or investment, we can quantify what will be the impact on risk reduction. Okay, so we take into account risk like age, load factors, where it is located, but also, as you said, vegetation, climate, but also we look at the criticality of the assets, because the same asset, take a pole, a simple pole, take the same asset in different parts of the network can have a very different impact if it fails. So we look at the criticality, how important it is in terms of impacting the quality of service, safety, and also the cost impact on the environment as well.
Okay, and Schneider Electric has been doing asset management for utilities for a while. Why are they working with APLINES? I would think this is sort of duplication of effort, or you bring something different than what Schneider Electric was providing before.
Yeah, actually, it's a fairly new value proposition, because Schneider Electric has been in utilities for some time, but really the focus has been so far on the real-time control of the network, that is called ADMS, and also the GIS, right? And then they've got other units who are doing asset management. The focus has been on manufacturing, power generation, and other kind of assets. So developing an offering that is really specific for utilities is something new. And why they did that? Because in utilities, you've got all kinds of assets. Some are very connected, like substations, transformers. You've got lots of data you can use to do smart asset management. But as we all know, in utilities, you've got to deal with millions of assets that are not connected. So then you've got to leverage different type of data. You've got to do some smart modeling to come up with the best decision. So that's why APLINES and APLINES was started with a very specific focus for utilities.
Okay, and what makes your solution unique and differentiated in the marketplace?
The main point is about risk modeling. Okay, we can model any kind of risk on the assets. Of course, we take into account, how old it is, the aging model, where it is located. Is it near the coast, high altitude? Because it will have an impact on corrosion and other things. But also, we can take into account the impact of vegetation. Because it's one thing to do a very fine modeling of corrosion and the impact, but if you don't know about vegetation and how it can affect your assets, then you're missing maybe the main risk. And also more and more, our customers are asking us to model the impact of climate change. Yeah, temperature, humidity, wind, snow. We know that it has an impact on the asset itself. So that's a very important differentiator that we've got. The other one is that we look at the criticality of the asset as well. And that way, the same asset has a different importance for the utilities. So it's going to help them prioritize their interventions. And then I would say the other point is that we are map driven as well, right? We've got a very tight integration with the GIS. We pull a lot of data from the GIS, but also we push data into the GIS, and we create what we call the risk layer into the GIS, to help on decision, because the GIS today is something very critical for utilities. It's always been big and now it's becoming huge. And once your data is on the GIS, then you can push it as well to many other systems.
Okay, and now how do you handle climate change and the penetration of distributed energy resources?
Yeah, climate change is part of our IP in terms of how do we model the impact on from temperature, historical events, because the same asset in a different location with different weather condition will have a different, health score, basically. So we've got some very specific models that we can embed into the platform, basically. Impact of distributed energy resources is something that is really interesting. It's a very new topic because you can take any utility. 15 years ago, they just had no, wind farms or PV farms connected to the network. Today, you pick any utility, they've got hundreds, if not thousands, of distributed energy resources asset connected, right? And I'm not even talking about charging station, for electrical vehicle. So this is something that is very exponential for utilities, but then no one has really looked at the impact on the assets, because if you connect all those assets on the grid, that was not designed, to really manage that flow and load in multiple directions, then you've got to understand if your asset is going to be aging faster, basically. So those are the type of very fine modeling of the risk that we can integrate into the approach. Yeah.
Okay, and now utilities have tried to leverage new geospatial data sources, such as satellite imagery. How do you handle that and include the data on environment, weather, location of distributed energy resources?
Yeah, we do that because, again, you can start your asset management journey with a very small amount of data, and you get some value, of course, if you know the age, where it is located, and a few aging laws. But if you want to really become a bit more smarter about how you manage your assets, then you'll have to deal with new sources of data, right? Because of what I've mentioned. If you want to understand the climate impact, DR impact, then you're going to have to integrate all kind of data. So you mentioned satellite data, of course, for vegetation. Every data we deal with is geospatial data, right? About climate, location, altitude, distance to the coast, even the load factors, where it is on the network. That's what we leverage more and more into an asset management platform, again, to derive better results.
Recently I had a talk with IBM and Airbus Alliance about their vegetation management solutions for electric utilities. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I wanted to see how you differentiate your offering. They claim to have a lot of artificial intelligence behind their offering. Do you have something similar or better?
For us, it's a source of data, to be very clear. So we've got partners who provide, I would say, intelligence about vegetation. Really, our IP is to leverage the data to quantify the risk on the assets. Yeah, this is what we do that is fairly unique in our approach to asset management. So historically in utilities, you would have a vegetation management team, and they've got data, they go and cut, they trim the trees, basically. But the asset management team, historically, they don't really leverage vegetation data as a risk. We make that connection, right, between the two teams. So we look at vegetation data, and then we really quantify risk, and then we combine that with the criticality on the assets. So we don't compete. Again, we build on the platform, or we leverage that as an input. Yeah.
Okay, and how can our viewers find out more about APLINES on the internet?
Yeah, we can go on our website, of course, APLINES.com. And also we publish, like everyone, I guess, information on social media as well. We'll have a webinar as well next week. Yeah.
Okay, and Baptiste, it okay if I ask you a couple of personal questions?
Absolutely, Sanjay.
So what do you do for fun outside work, or what is your personal passion?
Oh, it's interesting. I'm actually doing a lot of running, and I'm an ultra marathon runner, if that makes sense. So I'm doing long distance running. Yeah, that's my main number one hobby. Yeah.
How many marathons have you completed?
Oh, yeah, several, or if not many. Yeah, many. But I'm now shooting for a really long distance. Like the 80 miles or those kind of distances now. Yeah.
But have you participated in any of the international tournaments for
Yeah, some of them I'm not really competing for the first spots, but I do that as a personal challenge. But yeah, I'm doing some of the famous one in the mountain racing, for example, in the Mont Blanc in France, and a few others. Yeah.
Okay, and can you also tell us something about yourself that most people at APLINES don't know about you?
Yeah, I speak Bahasa Indonesia. It's a language of Indonesia.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I've used to live in Indonesia. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. And do you like Indonesia?
A lot. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the culture and the country itself. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Which city did you live in?
I was living on, in a city called Balikpapan. It's on the Borneo Island.
Okay. Okay, that's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Baptiste, for taking time to record this interview. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, Sanjay. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is Sanjay Gangal from GIS Café.